Are you ready for me to start?
We are good.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Denson. This is the meeting of the Mobile City Planning Commission for Thursday, May 21st, 2020. General procedures for this remote meeting are as follows. I will announce an application. The staff will give an overview, including any information regarding feedback from the applicant or other interested parties. I will then open the meeting for discussion by the commission members. After discussion, I will call for a motion, a second, and then we will vote. If there is a question regarding the vote, we will do a roll call vote. After the vote, we will move to the next item. We will have the applicant, Casey Pipes, for item number 2, participate in the meeting. Commission members and staff, please remember to keep your microphone on mute unless you are speaking to the meeting attendees. I will first call the roll. Mr. Gant is absent. Ms. Latham?
Here.
I'm Jennifer Denson. Mr. Blackwell?
Here.
Ms. Sessions?
Here.
Mr. Cameron?
Here.
Mr. Atchison, I believe is absent. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Amberger, Ms. Rich,
Here.
Mr. Hembry,
Here.
Mr. Stubbs.
Here.
We have a quorum, and we will now review and approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved and passes. The first item on the agenda, number 1, 1500 Government Street, has been withdrawn from by the applicant. They requested withdrawal on May 20th, and so that application is no longer before us. Number 2, Ms. Pappas, did you have anything to add there?
No, I didn't. I had nothing to add. I think somebody may have some feedback.
Okay. Commissioners, if you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind putting your on mute, that would be great. Thank you. The second item is 3250 Airport Boulevard and 325 East I-65 Service Road South. The staff has recommended certain conditions. Ms. Pappas?
Ms. Denson, the applicant is at the meeting and wanted to address the commission. I do want to note for the record that Mr. Anderson just arrived, so he is now in the meeting. At this point, I would say that Mr. Pipes is here and ready to address the commission.
Thank you. This is Casey Pipes. This is the Springdale Mall application, and normally I would just wave my hand. We're in agreement with staff recommendations, but I'm here and available to answer any questions anybody has about the application and what we've requested, but we're in agreement with the staff recommendations and appreciate y'all's support.
Casey, what were the issues last month that the discrepancy between what you were looking for and what staff was recommending? Wasn't it something related to the signage?
There was some additional clarity that the staff was requesting about signage. Also, we were asked to get the letter of consent or authorization from the out parcels. The what I call the old Altel building in the northwest corner, and then the Raising Cane's out parcel that is in the on the airport frontage, and Sam's Club, which is in the middle of it all. So it took us some time to secure those letters. We also clarified some aspect of the sign package plan that we were requesting in response to some questions and some some issues that came up.
Okay, and on the PUD, you're okay and agreeable to all the conditions and that the application is subject to?
We are.
Okay.
Are there any more questions for the applicant or for staff? Is there a motion for approval, or is there a motion for the application?
Move to approve based on staff recommendations, findings of facts, A, B, C, D, and F.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Ms. Pappas, do we need to have a roll call vote on these or voice?
We can go strictly by voice, and then if there is a correct question, then we'll call.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Number 3, 3526 Spanish Alley. This application is also for approval based on staff recommendations.
Ms. Denson, we did not receive any comments in opposition to this application, nor did we receive any comments from the applicant regarding concerns with the recommendations.
Okay. Are there any questions by the commission?
Ms. Margaret, on the, I may be getting this mixed up with another application, but didn't Jerry Bird send an email with some clarification on something regarding a lot not being included?
That's
I
item
believe-
5.
Yes, it's item number.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I'm getting that one mixed up. Okay.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
With the motion of approval based on staff recommendations and a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Moving to number 4, 119 Battery Lane. I believe that, well, Ms. Pappas, you could address their request.
Yes, their request, and it was a little confusing in the report. Their request is to maintain this 20-foot setback along Lot A, along Devondale Lane. And the staff is in agreement with that, which would require modification to condition number 2, which would simply state that the illustration of a 20-foot setback for Lot A along Devondale Lane, and that is consistent with zoning ordinance requirements.
So that would be item number 2,
Yes, sir.
would be changing
From 25.
that. to
Illustrate.
It's got a 25-foot setback.
And
That-
it would be changed to 20.
Okay. And the applicant is agreeable to all this?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from or comments from commissioners? Is there a motion?
Move we approve, subject to staff recommendations, changing number 2, condition number 2 to reflect a 20-foot setback requirement instead of a 25.
Second. Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion, I'm sorry. Ms. Rich is stating
Aye.
opposition.
No, aye. No opposition.
Okay, so is any
Not this time.
Is there anyone opposing the motion or the vote? Okay, then the motion passes. Number 5, 1001 in Bristol Court. Ms. Pappas, do you, well, the applicant has requested a modification of the lot layout, and the staff now recommends holdover until the June 4th meeting. This holdover will most likely be approved, but is there anyone that has questions or needs to discuss anything about this? Mr. Byrd had emailed about this as well. Or does this reflect Mr. Byrd's concern?
No, ma'am, it does not. And he does understand that it is recommended for holdover until June 4th, so he can get those revisions to us and
Okay.
that we can provide them to the commission.
Are there any other comments or questions from the commission at this time? I will motion for a holdover on until the June 4th meeting.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the holdover has been granted. Number 6, 1867 Prichard Avenue West and 100 to 110 Joel Court. The staff has recommended approval subject to certain recommendations. Do you have any comments, Mrs. Pappas, on this?
No, ma'am. The applicant, of course, is requesting PUD approval to redevelop the property in question. They propose to do it in phases, which, as stipulated in recommended condition number 1, they would need to reapply annually to make sure that their conditions, that their approvals are in place. We have not received any comments from neighboring property owners and no feedback from the applicant regarding concerns as recommendations.
I'm sorry, my Zoom or meeting glitched a little bit when you said you had not heard anything from the applicant about concerns with the recommendations. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Any questions or comments by commissioners?
And just for clarification, you said there was no concerns expressed by the surrounding neighborhoods or community.
We have not received any emails, no comments uploaded to the portal, and no note from staff members regarding complaints received via phone calls.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve based on staff recommendations, findings of facts A, B, and C.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposite, anyone opposed? The motion passes. Now onto our new zoning applications. Number 7, 3154 Cottage Hill Road. It is recommended for holdover to the June 18th meeting with revisions due by June 3rd to allow the applicant to address certain items. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Have we made the applicant, have we advised the applicant that we're recommending hold over and he knows what needs to be done?
Yes, sir. We advised the applicant of the recommendation for holdover, and we did not receive any correspondence, that they were concerned about the delay.
Okay.
Is there I will make the motion for the holdover to the June 18th meeting with revisions due by June 3rd.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Moving to group applications, number 8, 1073 Bernice Hudson Drive. We'll discuss them together, but we'll vote on them separately. There's the A, which is the Tailton subdivision, and the B, the rezoning subdivision to move to R1 single family residential. Ms. Pappas, do you have any comments for this?
Again, we have not received any opposition, nor did we receive any concern back from the applicant regarding the recommended conditions from the staff. The purpose is to create one lot, and the rezoning's needed to eliminate split zone.
Is there a motion?
On
So
the
moved.
subdivision? On the subdivision?
Yes, on the subdivision. Ms. Sessions moved approval on the subdivision, subject to staff recommendations. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The Tailton subdivision has been approved. The motion passes. On B, the Tailton subdivision rezoning to R1. From R1 split R2 to just R1. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The rezoning recommendation will be made to the city council. Number 9, 830 Cochrane Causeway. The first item is planning approval for the Zenith Energy Dredge spoil site. And there is also the sidewalk waiver for the Zenith for the spoil site as well. Both are recommended for approval. Any questions or comments about either portion?
I did have one question about there being a significant amount of wetlands on that piece of property, and I know that they're putting dredge spoils there. That won't in any way change. I mean, we don't need to worry about the wetlands being compromised or anything, do we?
They will have to get all the necessary permits from federal, state, and local agencies before they do anything in the wetlands.
Right.
The
Thank you.
applicant had requested access to the meeting, and I believe he may be here if you would like for him to address it.
If he would like to be part of that or to address it, that would be fine.
Margaret, just a question for you, if you don't mind. As far as notification, I mean, anytime we do anything like this is always, concern, and we will make sure that we're, covering all the bases. But I guess notice was sent out to all the appropriate people as far as what was going on with the change.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And no response back from the community.
That is correct.
Okay. On the sidewalk waiver, it's just, I did not read the engineering comments about the sidewalk waiver, I guess, because it's just not an appropriate place for a sidewalk.
Well, on the engineering comments, and I haven't pulled those up recently, but I do recall there being comments. You have an open ditch situation there, and while there may be room for a sidewalk, that area is tidally influenced and frequently goes underwater. There have also been other sidewalk waivers granted in this area for those reasons. Part of it's industrial. Yes, people that work in these areas could still get out and walk along the sidewalks like they do further away over at Austell. But those sidewalks there are not beside an open ditch that frequently go underwater. This area does.
Did the
Can
applicant?
I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. What is the dredging material? What's the product that's going to be up there?
It's from the bay. Actually, that was specifically listed in the narrative.
The dredging from the Mobile River, there are at least two other dredge spoil sites in that immediate area on that side of Cochrane Parkway. So this is not a novel idea for the use of that property over there. But all those dredge spoils are for any time you dredge any body of water, whether it's a canal, a bay, or a river.
Rich, if you'll look at page 3 of the staff report, it provides narrative.
I lost you. I'm sorry.
If you can hear me, bottom page, the staff report, the applicant's narrative includes information. Also, I'm going to shift to the other slides.
We lost you, Ms. Margaret.
Okay, sorry.
Well, the dredging spoil, according to the narrative submitted with the application, will be for the docking space adjacent to their property fronting the river.
Okay.
So they're dredging the area in front of their docking facility and taking the spoils and putting it on this location across the causeway.
Does that get removed from the site at any time, or does it just stay there forever once it's put in the piles?
Well, they're going to store it there for dewatering, and perhaps after it has been dewatered, it might be removed elsewhere. But as Margaret is pointing out on the screen, you have these dredge spoil ponds immediately adjacent to it. And those are all up and down that side of the island there.
So that's where it eventually goes back after it's drained, you said? Where does the draining process, where does that water go when they drain it?
Well, I would think that it is dewatering on the location, so it would eventually either seep into the ground located at that area, and perhaps drain into the bay, but it is water from the bay that is going to be draining back to it.
Right.
I don't know who owns.
So it's the
who applicant is here, but most-
deepening of the port. Is that the activity that it's going to be part of?
It says it's specifically for their portion of the terminal on the river.
They have to maintain their portion of the river between the Corps maintained and their dock in order to get ships in. That's their responsibility, not the Corps of Engineers.
I can't hear, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I guess this is Gulf Coast Asphalt across the street, and they have to maintain the depth between their bulkhead and the Corps maintained channel in order to be able to get ships up against their property. So that's where, my guess is that's where the spoil is coming from, instead of having to truck it off somewhere.
And who gives the final permit? Is it the Corps, and is it ADEM? Are there other hurdles to go through?
Yeah, but they go through all sorts of testing and permitting and everything. I mean, we certainly don't have to give permits.
Ms. Margaret, could we get the applicant on just to sort of present their case and explain to us what they're doing, just for the record?
If they're here, and hold on, I'm gonna have to stop the.
Are we still muted? We're
Okay.
unmuted. Hey, this
You
is
are
Gary Coles.
unmuted. Here's the applicant.
Thank you, Marty. This is Gary Coles and Patrick Garstecki, Coles Murphy Glover and Associates, 457 St. Michael Street. We were trying to weigh in a little bit earlier. Can y'all hear us well now?
We can.
We can.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this facility or this site will be utilized for the dredge spoils, for the placement and dewatering for Zenith Blakely and Zenith Mobile. Those are two terminals. The spoils will be hydraulically dredged and placed in this impoundment, and they will be dewatered predominantly by a weir structure that will collect the clear effluent and deliver it back to the river via a drain pipe that goes underneath the highway and goes over into a drainage easement between Zenith and Chipco. These spoils will stay on site until the impoundment is basically full, and then at that time, it's probably be about 10 years is what we estimate. And then the materials would have to be removed to create additional capacity. I heard somebody mention wetlands. The area has been permitted by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and ADM for this type of facility.
Thank you, Mr. Coles.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions by the commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Coles.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Is there a motion on the, we'll take them separately.
Planning approval.
Yes, motion on the planning approval.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second. I'm sorry, I'm not seconding. I meant to ask for a second. Thank you.
Second.
And the properly moved and seconded, is there all opposed? I mean, I'm sorry, my dog is barking and making it a little hectic here. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain. I don't know enough about this.
I'm sorry, Ms. Richard, did you abstain or oppose?
Abstain. I would like to abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that enough, or do we need to do a roll call for that?
I believe unanimous and one abstention. Okay, can you hear me?
Margaret's on mute.
I can now. Oh, you.
No, do we need
She's
a roll call?
frozen.
I believe it was unanimous with one abstention. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's what I heard.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to B, the sidewalk waiver. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the sidewalk waiver.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there an abstention or an approval opposed? Sorry, I apologize for my dog. So we had the approval vote. Any opposition? Okay, then the motion has passed. The sidewalk waiver has been approved. And is there any other business at this time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sorry, my dog has seen something out the window and is having an attack about it. So I apologize.
What is his name?
His name is Snickers.
And you called him.
Exactly. All right, well then we are adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.
you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.